The way I do it, I can only speak for myself, of course. The way I do it is I try and find the gaps, the path of least resistance.
Where you? On the east bank of where the buses are recording. Okay, so I'm just in front of you. You're on the other side of the Donga. Yep. Okay, copy that.
And that's why sometimes we can't really go in a straight line. We got to zigzag, and that is how this vehicle got its name, because that zigzagging is called jigga jigga.
Lewis and Carl stop now, I'm sure. Just found by toilet.
The monkeys have stopped shouting.
Yeah, I'm going to go Leadwood again. I slept into Leadwood on the subway on the eastern side of all those Dongas. Now to get out of here, I know Steve.
Sorry, Hornbill. The monkeys have stopped shouting, and we are almost due east of where we were with those monkeys shouting at whatever it was. And by the looks of things, whatever animals they were,
Yeah, I can see this. If you can get down to this down, so far it's nothing open.
they'll be coming this way, unless they found them.
I can't get that far. I'm just going to go back. Now I can back to Leadwood Road.
Hoping that maybe someone, whatever it was, might have been walking up this way.
They're on the north of Small Pan. Slowly to the west there. North of that clearing. I know it is up. You can't get it out coming.
Something went through here. Nothing unusual. I didn't copy that. Folks, don't know what we're looking for at the moment. Caroline just asked me to remind you. Unfortunately, we haven't the faintest idea at the moment. There were monkeys shouting to the west of us. They were looking in an easterly direction. We're now actually far away from where it is, so I doubt whatever it was, whether it was lion or leopard, whether or not they would have come this far by now. But yes, we're actually just looking for anything that moves, really. Just doing a lovely afternoon game drive. Any tracks, all the monkeys shouting at something, and hold on.
Towards the Small Pan now. Going to Seattle. Okay, copy. He's not really there in your camp. Yeah, dude. Yeah, my man.
So, anyways, I couldn't quite hear the monkeys. It sounded like it was possibly leopard, but there were lion in the area this morning, evidently. Tracks on the road, it could have been lion. vervets don't tend to shout as much for lion as they do for leopard, because lion tend not to climb trees after vervet monkeys the way a leopard would. But who knows? Only the monkeys know, actually. I think there's still a couple of guys looking for them, Warren and Graham. And I guess we will find out if they do find anything. I think Lex is there as well. Excuse me, Franklin.
Fire line. Yeah? That's a willow one after your big left. Yeah, this is my bike. It's my bike. It doesn't work. Maybe I'll see you later, level.
I like there, Graham.
Yeah, that's it for Mark.
Okay, I've just done Leadwood Road, nothing coming out this side yet.
Okay, busy between Leadwood and Wodonga.
Maybe whatever it was went towards those little pans past the Oldham PC pines. Okay, well, some things will always remain a mystery. We can't always find everything, we can't always be lucky. And it also goes to show that sometimes when an animal doesn't want to be found, it won't be. Crested francolins in the road. This time of the evening they come out onto the road for dust bars. They've been in the bush, walking through the grasses all day, probably picking up parasites and other insects, other mites and things. Coming out onto the roads, having a dust bath helps rid them of their parasites. Dust bath for the birds is as good as a water bath. And we're now on Cheetah Cut Line. There's certain mite species that attack the feathers of birds, and even then there's certain species amongst them that will for some reason go for the lighter parts of the feathers, for the white feathers or the white parts of the feathers, and that's enough to interfere in a bird's aerodynamics and flight capabilities. So it's very important for birds to keep themselves clean and relatively free of mites and fleas and ticks, I guess. Joel. Joel's asking if we ever see large beehive. Joel. Okay. Joel, not Jill. Joel. Oh, and let's try Mumba Road. Just in case. Oh, there was a snake crossing over there. Not a very big one by the looks of things. Medium-sized snake across the road. Maybe we can see some elephants heading down this way. What have we got on the road? Hyena tracks. Joel was asking if we ever see large beehives and what type of bees are they? Well, they're the African honeybee. And of late, no, last couple of years, haven't seen very big ones. I know back home in the Timbavati, I've got a nice beehive that I've been watching for a while. I'm just looking at all these hyena tracks, folks. A lot of hyena activity here. Looks like the clan. And yeah, African honeybees, the sort of the common honeybee that we get throughout most of sub-Saharan Africa. Different strains of it, of course, and not as irascible, not as bad as the Africanized American honeybees. Some fresh elephant tracks. There's a bull that was here heading to the west, so we might still get to see some elephant. I wonder if this bull was also heading down towards that breeding herd. We only saw two. Ephraim was saying there were a lot of tracks in the riverbed that looked like it was more than just the two elephants that we saw, that young female and that other young little bull. And this is fairly fresh tracks of an elephant bull heading west from where I am now. Let's see if we can follow up on him. Looks like he might have left the road already.
There's something back there.
Let's take the road and see. It looks like
it looked like quite a long, either a long branch or a long neck.
Long branch or a long neck.
Yeah.
We're on Drakensberg Drive now. I think this elephant bull cut through here and this way rather than following Mumba Road to the west. That long branch.
Could have been, like, that was the right angle.
Tree disguised as a giraffe.
Yeah.
Hi there, Phyllis and Shalom. On the subject of elephants, since we are looking for a couple of ellies at the moment, now that I'm on this road, we'll just take Bateleur Road to the west. Although I did want to take Mumba Road, maybe come back. Now let's do that. Let's go back to Mumba Road. We'll come back to the east on Bateleur. Phyllis is saying she's seen a couple of times we've had elephants with one tusk, and it appears that it's not necessarily a broken tusk as much as it is that the other tusk hasn't erupted, and it's also quite likely. I thought I saw a tawny shape down there, but it's just the tawny grasses. It's not very common, Phyllis. It does occur. It's certainly not rare, but by the same token, it's not that common. But yes, much the same as there's a genetic strain of tusklessness, no tusks at all. There's also a genetic strain for only one of the tusks to grow. Whether it is genetic or whether it is something as a result of something happening as an infant, I'm not too sure. But there are times when you can see whether an elephant has broken a tusk very low down or whether it just hasn't erupted at all. And yeah, certainly a lot of the times that we see a one-tusked elephant, it is a tusk that hasn't erupted, so that is not a broken tusk as much as it is just a tusk that just wasn't there to begin with. Recessive gene. Waste with the sun before it's too low. It's already getting quite low. See if this elephant came back onto this road. It's like somebody was pulling up a pipe. Somebody like an elephant. There used to be a pipeline here. Excuse me a moment. Oh, lovely. I've suddenly shrunk. I'm standing straight up. But I'm now eye level with the dashboard. Have you ever seen me this low? This is a very, very interesting piece of stone. How many times, I think a few times in the last year that I've found, and this is there's a distinct groove over here, and there's a distinct dimple on either side of it. This here's been chipped though. So what this was used for, I'm gonna have to put my thinking cap on, because this is definitely a man-made, well, no, not man-made, man-altered rock. Let me climb back in. It's like a jungle gym. There's just a deep hole next to me that I was standing in. As I said, there's an elephant here digging, and it must be from this digging that this has been exposed. And I love round rocks, because a lot of round rocks that I've found have been fashioned by ancient humans into these round rocks, and they either used as, well, they used as some sort of tool. I've got one round rock that was used as a throwing weapon. Very clearly, it was also found in an area. Oh, is that a Cokie Franklin down there? No, it's crested. Guess I got dust on my lenses and my glasses. Very nice. I'm trying to think what this could have been used for.
See if I can get the Franklins while they're there.
Pardon?
See if I can get the Franklins while they're
Oh, okay. Try and tilt nose forward.
there. I know I can get them.
Patrick might have an idea. Now, in some of the older cultures, some of the older cultures where they make ostrich eggshell beads, little round discs with probably about 1/8 of an inch in diameter, tiny, look at that, this big. And the way they do that is that they get a hole, they make these little chips of ostrich eggshell, they make a hole in it, and they string them along a piece of gut or whatever it is they're using, and they have a rock, and they'll take a rock similar to this and keep rolling it up and down, and that'll chip the eggshells all in the same, so that they become almost round. Now, whether this is maybe one that was used for that, I don't know. The problem is that I don't recall any of the cultures from this part of the world making eggshell beads, mostly on account of ostriches. Well, who knows, 200 years ago ostriches might have been common in this area. Could have been more open grassland. Habitat is quite critically over the years, from grassland to bushland, and with overpopulations of elephants, back to grasslands again, and then the elephants leave it alone for a long time, possibly because there are not that many of them around anymore. and then the trees grow again, and then when the trees are at their peak and the bush is as dense as it is now, elephants tend to come back into the area, and they tend to open it up again, and it reverts back to semi-grassland, even grassland. Cycles that could take several hundred years. Of course, we as humans don't see things in that time scale. For us, everything has to happen in the time scale of, well, not even our lifetime, shorter than. Thanks, Phyllis. Phyllis is saying that it could be a grinding tool. It could be, but it isn't. Well, it is. Let me put it this way. I'm not saying it isn't 100%. The grinding stones that are used here, or have been used Stone Age into modern times, even to this day, the stone grinding pestle and mortars that were used in the past, was a flat rock with a concave in it, and the stone, and I found one some time ago. I found a rock that had a very smooth upper where it had been held in a person's hand, and they're very rounded. This is the opposite. This has got a dimple, this has got a concave. These grinding stones that are used for grinding maize are convex because they've got to fit into the bowl of the pestle, or no, the mortar. Which one is which? I forget now. The bowl. And then, because it's a bowl, the stone that fits into it has to be concave. This is quite clearly not concave. It's convex, sorry, not concave. Am I confusing you? I think I'm confusing myself now. ND filter? So, I hope I haven't confused you now. Anyway, this is concave, and a grinding stone is convex. This is, I don't know. What's throwing me off, first of all, I've never seen a stone this shape before. And second of all, I've never seen a stone that has got a very distinct ridge. I mean, this has clearly been ground to have this groove, and it has clearly been given these two concave grooves on either side. Unfortunately, this looks like there's a piece that is broken out here that would have complemented, or rather completed, the stone. But very, very interesting nonetheless. Certainly a treasure in my books. I wonder if we shouldn't maybe go back towards Twin Dams, because if there was a predator around there, who knows, maybe with the sun going down, they might turn around and head towards Twin Dams for some water, being about the closest water to them. This big elephant bull that was headed this way, I don't see any tracks of him anymore, so I think he headed off more to the north. Yes, here he is. Here's his tracks here again. He's come back onto the road. Been a lot of elephants here. There's an elephant. Oh, it's the same one. She's come this far. It's come quite far from the Milwaukee actually. The same car with that youngster. She calmed down a lot and she's not even looking at us now. It must have been something that disturbed her earlier, and she thought I was the cause of it, and that's why she was trumpeting at us so much. Once again, tracks of a bull leading towards her, and I'm not seeing the bull, unless there's got to be the rest of the breeding herd somewhere. Maybe further north of her. If I remember correctly, the last time we saw her, she was lagging behind the herd. Oh no, the last time we saw her, she was pretty much in amongst them, but she wasn't really socializing with any of them. A little bit of an outcast. Ephraim coming? Where's that? Near Gallagher? Okay, copy, thanks. No, I had to leave the area, I was losing signal. But I'm back on Mamba Road now. I've picked up that Ndlovu again with that Mampimpan. There is a lot of other Mkonzo here, but still can't find any other Ndlovu other than this one Mafazi, not Mampimpan. Okay, copied. I might check Twin Dams in case that maybe it was Ingwe that comes out again at Twin Dams. Which we ought to do before it gets too dark, before the sun goes down. Yes, go. Hello, Alan. Alan's daughter mentioned something about measuring the circumference of an elephant's footprint, multiplying it by 3, and then the answer being the height at the shoulder of the elephant. Alan's wondering if we've ever actually done that to validate it. Alan, I haven't, first of all. I only heard of this theory recently. I think it was Jared that had an elephant track. Jared was talking about it. It was the first time I'd heard of that calculation. It would be pretty difficult to get close to an elephant. I suppose you could approximate, I guess. What I do know and what I do have is a study that was done by, I think it was a university in Sweden, or it could have been Sweden, Uppsala, or somewhere in Europe, and a study that was done that correlates elephant footprint size to age, and I guess that's got something to do with size. And of course there's a bit of a margin for error, but there is certainly a correlation between the size of an elephant's footprint and its age, and therefore its size. So I wouldn't be surprised if the theory does work, or it does, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, that it does work out. But no, personally I haven't tried it. I heard Jared talk about it. It was the first I'd heard of it. And I can't say.
I've heard females are 5.5 times and males are supposed to be 5.7 times.
Males 5-7 times and females 5.5 times.
It's supposed to be the back foot, but I've not tried it either.
And then of course that's another thing, whether it's the front foot or the back foot, because both have different diameters. The back foot of an elephant is very oval and smaller than the front foot, which is very round and very much bigger. We're going to leave her be. We're going to head on down. Bye bye, Maman. She's much calmer than she was a lot earlier. So it's quite quite possible. I think the amount that one has to multiply it by is debatable. Thinking 3 times isn't much. If you've got an elephant that is, let's say hypothetically 9 feet at the shoulder, that means the circumference of its footprint would have to be 3 feet.
This was where I read it. It was the length of the back foot.
Length of the back foot. Well, you see that too. I mean, that could also be a very valid equation or theory. 5 times or 7 times. And if I could dig out, well, I can't do it now because I don't have it with me, but somewhere in my stuff in storage I've got this study that was done. I remember I received it when I was still in the Selous Game Reserve in East Africa, and so it's with a lot of my East Africa stuff. But if I had to dig out that study that was done on circumference of the elephant's foot, or size of the footprint, versus the height of the elephant, or the age of the elephant. Age, of course, has some indication on height. You get some elephants that are taller than others at the same age. Much the same way as humans are taller than others. But the margin is not as great as it is in humans, the margin of difference. Gosh, chilly already here in the dip. There are some animals that have such precise measurements as adults that it is sometimes the only way to differentiate between different species of certain things, by measuring things like the forearm. I remember when it came to identifying bats in North America, between different species of Myotis bats. As an adult bat, the margin of is so minuscule between one bat's wing size and the next, the same species, that you could pretty much a bat just by the length of the forearm, because the only other way to tell what species it was to count the ridges on the palate, and that's not very easy to get a bat to open wide. And then you find glass and a miniature little torch, one of those miniature little dentist mirrors, and you get, it doesn't work to look at a bat's palate. So yeah, the forearm of a bat to identify its species. There are other things in nature that you have to measure it. You can come up with more concrete answers. Let me just get through this dip. I can formulate my thoughts better. Still no signal. Find anything, Warren?
Nothing, I can't let it road again, went into the thicket again and doing the side now, nothing.
Oh no, I can see you. Yeah, also nothing. Send Vorbor in to look.
I tried to use it for bait, but it didn't work.
Warren's doing a game drive with his Jack Russell. Vorbor. Pudgy little thing. Gorgeous little dog. So, sorry Kaz, that didn't come through at all. Something about the grooves on my stone. What? And who was that? No. Yeah, I've kind of got that. I just didn't get who asked the question. Whatever it was in this area earlier, no longer causing disturbance.
But it's still on the south of Bunker. So I'm burying that side for now. Okay, thanks. Yeah, after the food we can come back in. Yeah, I'm trying to say all things and I'll stand by there.
Okay, a report about some lion in the area just south of us at the moment. Oh, we had Boon Pan heading north. The Boon Pan heading north is here. Let me see, we just stop a sec. Any Chitwa station with Ngala near? Any Chitwa station near Boon Pan with Ngala?
Station looking for a Chipper station?
Yeah, Marc here, Wild Earth. I'm near Baboon Pan. I heard a report you got Ngala heading this way.
Mark, it's Peter Mokoro. I'm not in Ngala. Highly. On Chippers, I'm lots of those in Ngala. They are 300 of game made. For what? They've gone static and they're lullified to the drainage there. And Holly's radio is a bit clear. But Wayne from
Copy, thanks. You're breaking up a bit, but I think I got the gist of that.
Yeah, Kaz, I did that not make any difference? I thought you were going to say if it wasn't. Yeah, I was speaking through the radio. Can you copy me? Yeah, Kaz, can you copy me?
Are you on manual focus?
I was when you asked me to, and I was waiting for you to say if it was out of focus. Okay, copy. I'll try and give it a go now. Yeah, might be changing.
Confirmed sleeping. Fabienne. Hello, Fabienne. Asking about the sleeping habits of elephants. Well, they aren't in the habit of sleeping very much. They do tend to rest up from time to time, especially during the heat of the day. Occasionally they will lie down. Could be here that these lions are in this drainage line. Where did that car go?
Into the boom tunnel.
I think he went into the drainage line and he didn't come out again. Sorry, Fabian, I'm just concentrating on a couple of things at the moment, so my brain's kind of divided. Because there's a report of lion that we're heading up towards Gary Main from down south of us. And I think they're still down in the Mulwati, so we're going to go back to the Mulwati. There's been lots of buffalo here. Here's lion tracks here. Pretty fresh too. Must have gone in here.
Ali, if you copy, can I join?
Must be back there. Wayne, come in.
Yeah?
Are you in the Mulwati?
Yeah, well.
Marc here. Will you let me know if they start moving towards Gary Main, please?
I will do. Yeah, they're about 150 meters or so, just south of it. But I'll definitely give you a shot.
Copy that, thanks. The station's evidently doesn't Gala, still about 150 meters south of Gary Main in the Mulwati.
Another mobile note.
Lalapines at the moment. I have been in contact with the guys from Chitwa. They will let us know if they are mobile north. I'm going to be hanging around, see if I can stay in the area, but until they do.
Thanks, Mark.
Unfortunately, we kind of missed the sun. So where was I? Fabienne, elephants. Elephants. Very often you'll find like a breeding herd would, well, rest up in the heat of the day. What they'll do is they'll find a nice shady spot and standing up they'll all relax. Trunks will go limp. I just want to show you quickly. I know I'm interrupting my